All right. We're live. Yep.
All right, let's get started. Please. Nancy, is that coming?
As far as we know.
Everybody heard from him? There he is.
I'm relatively certain at my
Good call, Nancy. All right, good morning. We're going to call to order the Friday, July 14th, 2017 Finance Commission meeting. We'll start with the public meeting tax, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Finance Commission was given in compliance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act by providing notice to all municipal and county clerks within the Pinelands area, to the Secretary of State on December 16, 2016, and to the Commission's officially designated newspapers on December 16, 2016, and by posting a copy on the bulletin board of the Commissioner's office.
Roll call, please.
Good morning. Commissioner Ashman, Commissioner Avery, Commissioner Barr,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Sheila,
Here.
Commissioner Galetta, Commissioner Janaro, here, Commissioner Lloyd,
Here.
Commissioner Lovebauer,
Here.
Commissioner McGlinchey,
Here.
Commissioner Prickett,
Here.
Commissioner Quinn,
Here.
Commissioner Rowan Green, Chair Rowan.
Here. All right, please.
This is the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business today is typically be our reorganization. However, we're going to postpone that until our next meeting. So, moving on, we'll go to the adoption of the June 9th, 2017 minutes for the open and closed session. We have
Move it.
second. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right. Next up, we have committee reports. Do we have anything, I think, personnel level is canceled, right? We did not have an ag meeting, that just leaves the policy and implementation committee meeting from June 30th, which I have a summary here. The committee adopted the minutes of the April 28th meeting. They also recommended that the commission certify Barney Township's ordinance 2017-12, which allows condominium development as conditional use in the neighborhood commercial zone. The committee also recommended that the commission approve Ocean County's amendment to the public safety power plan for the Pinelands. The committee advanced to the commission a resolution designating roads within Warwick State Forest that are appropriate for recreational use by motor vehicles. The commission asked Ms. Whittenberg to seek input from the DEP prior to that meeting, prior to the commission meeting. And then in closed session, the committee discussed staff recommendations for Pinelands Conservation Fund grant approvals. The committee approved funding 3 acquisition projects and recommended full commission approve grant funding for contingency projects. I'll start with my first question, which I think a lot of folks are here for today. Were you able to advance this resolution of the DEP and that conversation with that?
I did share the resolution up to DEP. I was unable to schedule a meeting with the commissioner. The commissioner was on vacation. P&I meeting was just a couple weeks ago, and then we had the auditor shutdown. So I didn't have a date for that meeting yet. It was scheduled, was scheduled, so I got that. So no, I'm not going to have a meeting with the commissioner.
Any idea when you'll get that meeting?
I would imagine within the next few weeks. They usually take a couple weeks to get on the calendar. I'm pushing and I can get a lot sooner.
I know that there were several on the P&I committee who okay, with advancing this commission, but under the condition that we had feedback with our language in the CMP actually says that we should consult with the DEP prior to advancing anything like this. So that means it's place. I'm not prepared to move this actually forward. If anybody else wants to share some thoughts on that as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say that while I'm not a member of the Policy Implementation Committee at the attend the meeting, and I agree with you, there was discussion at that time that many of the committee members felt it would be important to get feedback from the commissioner or at least from the department on a draft resolution. At the time, I expressed my disagreement with that position. I feel as though we don't absolutely need to have that feedback, considering we've been in discussion with the DEP all along in this process. However, I do respect the position that you were taking, Chairman, and several of my colleagues who feel strongly about that. And I would not have an objection or join along in a motion to table this resolution today. If that be made, I would simply ask in the motion that we set it for a date certain, the August or no later than September commission meeting, since action is so important on this issue. So,
And I agree with that. It's very important. I agree with trying to make certain.
How about no later than the September meeting?
Chairman,
Yes.
I hope I'm not interrupting anyone, but I did catch most of what Commissioner just said, and I agree with him. My only question is, what are the consequences? You said the language requires that the DEP approves it prior to us moving this forward. If we moved it forward today, then what is the consequence that we deal with, for lack of a better term, with the DEP?
I'll let the executive director take that one.
And just close the book on the rules, I'm just looking at it.
I know.
It says we have to, Jane, it says we have to do it in consultation with the DEP. Not that we have to have their approval, but that we have to do things in consultation with the department.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, I think we've had our consultation requirements with DEP. We've been working on this for 2 years. DEP's been here a number of times. And I think this is a matter of some urgency. We know we've heard extensive testimony about the damage to the city front. Nonetheless, I'm prepared to join in a motion to table. I would prefer that we table it to August rather than September if we can. I hope that the director can meet with the commissioner in the next couple of weeks, and if our August meeting, we'll be prepared to go on.
I'm not opposed to either date. I just wanted their consultation. They've not commented on this resolution with this map, so I know they've been involved in a lot of this process and it's been endless, but I want to get their feedback on it. It's their property, it's their force. I think we should have at least an opportunity to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I think just clear. Yeah, I recommend that we table it until August, and obviously we'll revisit this in August. If we haven't heard back from DEP, then we can consider that. Again, I don't think we have to wait for that, so we certainly won't do it until August. But one other thing I would say is, Commissioner Lowpower suggested a couple of amendments to the resolution. I have the B&I committee that would be, I think, very appropriate. And would it be appropriate? I think it would be appropriate today to make those amendments so the DEP sees what I hope will be the final draft that we will consider. So if it's appropriate, I don't know if it's appropriate to move those things now or later.
Because of the shutdown, we pushed the packet for this meeting out earlier than usual, so I didn't have Mark's language when the packet went out, so that's why it wasn't in the packet, but it's before you now. So
Just about to Robert's rules, please. Is there a motion on the floor to defer the matter? If so, that's not even out the government matters.
I don't think there's any motion on the floor right now.
No, there's not, this is all part of comment, we're here, we might as well. Is there a motion to defer that, board matter until the August meeting?
I will make that motion.
A second.
Let me just ask procedurally, I said I support that motion, but should we do the amendments first? I see council nodding. So let me suggest that we defer this motion. I'll make a motion if it's appropriate, or I guess we have to, I don't know if we draw the motion first or not. I would ask that we withhold action on that motion, withdraw that motion until we deal with the amendment.
Commissioner Barr will withdraw, I would certainly agree.
I will withdraw the motion. But having just seen these just now, not even had a chance to read it, I'm not voting on amendments at this time.
I think the resolution's probably included in my packet.
Commissioner Barr, I guess that's, I don't know, I'm not saying we're opposed to it, I can probably talk about it in broad speaking, but, I'd like the opportunity to read through this and understand what it's about.
Mr. Chairman, the essence of the amendment is to recognize that the language of the comprehensive management plan empowers us to designate areas where vehicles cannot go as motor vehicles as opposed to where they may go. So I suggest that we phrasing of the line in the resolution, like I said, we designate roads, places where vehicles can go, and instead say that we designate that motor vehicles may not go in the state forest except for the roads that are indicated. That's the essence of it. So it's not verbatim.
Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest, the reason I wanted to act on the amendments today, I don't feel like to maybe an alternative way, we asked the director to, I don't know, share the resolution, share the amendments, and then we would have feedback on both.
I'm not comfortable with this board on this schedule, I'm trying to digest it, but I got a problem if the director wants to share this as well. If you would share this, Mark, comments as well with you. My things.
Thank you, Chair.
So I will again make my motion to table this to the August meeting.
I'd like to second that.
All in favor of that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have one comment.
Sure.
I would ask for a friendly amendment to the motion that we table till August 14th with the understanding and perhaps direction to the executive director that she shared the resolution as well as the proposed amendments with the DEP between now and the end of the process.
I would agree.
We have an amended motion, what Commissioner Ward just said. We're repeating it, what he just said.
I'll make that motion.
There we go. Agreed. Second. Any additional comments?
Commissioner Chair, I hate to do this to you, but can you repeat what that Commissioner Boyd did?
I'll let Commissioner Boyd repeat that.
Okay, you can speak closer into the mic. I'm hearing you well, but no one else.
Jay, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
I recommended that we table the resolution until the August 14th meeting with the understanding that the director will share both the resolution and the proposed amendments with the department between now and then.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other comments on the motion on the floor? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on. And without order there, but moving on to Deputy Director, you want to debt reports.
Okay, I want to remind everybody when live streaming, it's really important that you're talking to the microphones. We're going to be testy about reminding you to talking to the microphones, otherwise the live streaming won't be effective. We had the one-day government shutdown. We anticipated it, it took care of all of our business that was time sensitive, so there were no impacts to the commission, short of the fact that we didn't work that day. And staff will not be paid for that day until such time as the governor decides that they will be. It seems like should happen. We already, there are some materials that I had put before you, one of which was the email from Mark, and that again was because those community packets went out. So that's why that was there. And one of the comment letters we received regarding the warrant amendment, because we got a lot of that letters, form letters, but I thought you should see that as well. We have 50, I think.
Yeah,
We close that door.
We had an update on the short course. Before the end of the meeting, we have a number of people.
I should point out that Joel Knox here for like is on vacation. Joel, can you answer your question?
yep, sure. Yeah, the summer short course is going to be a first-time event. It's kind of a new event. We've partnered with Stockton. It's going to be July 27th, which is on a Thursday. There's still a number of seats available. It's set up for both field trips and in classroom programs. One of the field trips, a canoe trip, actually is filled up, but there are still openings with the other two field trips, and there's plenty of openings in the classroom. A lot of the theme of the program this year is really, it's in Hamilton, but it's also got kind of an agricultural theme. So there's a number of historical presentations on the history of agriculture. There's a walk of downtown Hamilton, so there's some really neat opportunities. There's a program we're pretty excited about on the history of the New Jersey wineries, which is a program we hadn't had at short course before. So it'd be a good opportunity for people to get out and really get to see the Pinelands, feel the Pinelands, and learn more about the history and the nature of the area.
Very good, thank you. Another question about the elected officials meeting that's still coming up.
It is the 26th.
6th? Oh, 25th.
That's a busy week. And I don't know, Joe, do you know the attendance on that?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably in the ballpark of between 30 to 50 officials.
Paul said that it was picking up. He's been relentlessly pestering towns. Relentlessly pestering towns.
Great program.
Yeah, it's picking up.
Okay.
Larry? Good morning. Two things I wanted to mention. One is, I think I mentioned before that both Verizon and the new power provider, Mobility, are proposing microcells around the Pinelands. So we met with them to make sure that everybody was clear on what regulations apply. They now very much understand that outside of regional growth area towns, they can't go above 35 feet. They're going to use a lot of existing utility poles, but in probably at least half the cases, they're putting new poles. So outside of the two growth areas of life, they'll have to stick to under 35 feet. So they're going to start putting in their applications for this. These microcells are for capacity. We fairly much have decent coverage in the life. I don't want to perfect coverage. But these are because of people using streaming and data streaming and they fill a lot of bandwidth. So these are ways to allow them to serve customers. The other thing I wanted to mention is the state water supply plan was released. There have been hearings this week, maybe last week. Comments are due a week from today. We intend to make some comments. Generally speaking, our interests are how do you do this? It's very good information, by the way, on the 20 watersheds in the state. As I mentioned before, the watersheds are showing some stress today. If you go to full allocation for full usage of what people have been permitted to have, 15 of the 20 watersheds in the state will have stress. And so the question is, what about that? And they listed a series of ideas. I think they need to be fleshed out and we need to move forward in those. So those are the materials for our comments. That's all I have.
Sure. Questions, Clark? Larry, could you share the comments with us?
Yes. If you'd like, I also could do a briefing on the plan, but it's very data intensive on those 20 watersheds and more numbers than you'd like, but I can do something different perhaps at a future P&I meeting.
I'm interested in that.
Mr. Chairman, I think they're interested in that. So,
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to note a couple of meetings that occurred. On June 21st, the staff met with Mullica Township officials, including their mayor, on ongoing discussions for the reconstruction of the Sweetwater Casino restaurant. That application continues to be discussed with both the applicant and the township. The township's very interested in that proposal. On June 28th, we met with Pemberton Township officials and an applicant. Applicant's proposing a very large residential development off of Lakehurst Road, 500 plus residential units. The township is interested in a secondary access into the project. Right now, it's proposed to have a boulevard type entrance onto Lakehurst Road. The township's interested in having an exit out the back of the project. Any proposed access out to the back of the project is raising some environmental issues that the commission staff continues to discuss with the applicant. And the third meeting I just wanted to discuss is the staff met with Woodland Township officials, including the mayor. Woodland Township owns a large parcel that fronts on Route 72. It's in the vicinity of the state school. It's on the south side of 72. The township's interested in development of that parcel. So representatives of the town came in to discuss environmental issues and permitted land use issues on that parcel. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, commissioners may recall at the last commission meeting, a member of the public raised concerns with a project in Buena Vista Township. It's commonly referred to as the tourist rail station in the Richland Village area of Buena Vista Township. I provided each commissioner a packet of information this morning. In that packet is the original public development approval that the commission issued for that project, a copy of a letter from the municipal engineer addressing addressing all the concerns raised by the member of the public, and a copy of the information that the member of the public submitted to the commission at the last meeting. I provided those to the commission this morning with hope of commissioners could take a look at that over the course of the next month. And if there are additional questions concerning the matter, I'd be happy to try to answer them at the next commission meeting. And finally, I just wanted to note that from the commission staff's perspective, our review indicates the project continues to meet the commission's requirements. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that commissioners may have at the next meeting regarding this matter. That's the end of my report.
Chuck, with respect to the development of the Lakehurst Road, does the joint base have a comment on that, and do they have a right to comment on that? I vaguely remember the state comment about developments within a certain distance from the base.
I am not aware for this particular project of the base commenting on that project. It's on Lakehurst Road between Browns Mills and Route 70. So it is some distance from the base, but I have not received comments, so I'm not aware of the base comment on the project.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chuck?
I don't have a question for Chuck, I think for the executive director. Do we have any information on the federal business?
We have representatives from the National Park Service with us tonight, but not our designated temporary commissioner, and no. I think the administration is still finding its way.
Thank you.
I spoke with Peter earlier before the meeting, and they have not filled the hierarchy of the Park Service yet in order to be able to fill that position. And they will also work with so still on hold.
Right, and we continue to have a working relationship with the people that we work with there. We just don't have a commission.
Any other? No. All right. Next up, we have public development application. Three resolutions. The first of which demolition of structure in Pemberton Township. With a motion on.
Committee, recuse myself on the Pemberton matter, so yes.
Mr. Chairman, could I just wanted to note one item. You have a revised copy of the report that addresses the demolition of the school. The report only revises the block and lots that are subject to the proposal with some uncertainty as block and lots that are involved in this project. Does not change the substance of the application, so I wanted to make sure that the commissioners were aware that we issued that revised report. You have a copy in front of you. And in the text of the report, it notes that a driveway and a water main are proposed within an existing right-of-way, and that right-of-way, a portion of it, is in a forest management area. The proposed water main and the proposed access drive are both permitted uses there, and the report notes that.
Chairman, I'd like to move the adoption of the resolution. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. I have a question. Chuck, is this attached resolution, a different resolution than the one we have in our packet? We need to attach it.
It's an identical resolution, other than there's the resolution that will be signed, notes a different date of the report, but the resolution, the language of the resolution is identical, other than the date of the report which references.
So we should adopt our resolutions given the push today.
Yes.
I don't, yeah. Motion and second. Agree with that.
Well, the resolution number doesn't change, right?
Correct.
So we're still.
It's the resolution attached today, the only changes is that you're saying that I'm not going to amend anything.
Correct.
Any other comments on the Cumberland Township resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next up, we have two applications for one for Woodbine and one for Monroe Township. We have a motion on these resolutions.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, anything from these documents?
No, Commissioner.
Once, twice, comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. Next, we have two resolutions for forestry applications in Brennan State Forest. Motion?
So moved. Yeah. I have a question too. Just clarification on low ground pressure equipment. I assume that some kind of a vehicle to get in there and cut the trees that isn't heavy and won't compact the soil. Do I address you, Chuck, or?
That is a correct assumption. It's a weight issue of the vehicle, so that it would not have an adverse impact on any potential threatened endangered species, den or nest areas.
And another question, do these proposals go before the committee we have here, like the science advisory committee? Do they review, we have a science advisory committee, so do they review these as far as?
No, they don't. Just review my staff.
And do we know whether these plans have been through a computer simulation of forestry? I think that they have.
I don't know the definitive answer to that. I believe there's modeling done at DEP, but with respect to our development application review process, we would not simulate modeling.
I didn't know you needed to review it. I understand you would simulate. I don't know what the situation. Okay. Well, thank you. It looks very promising here. It's important to increase density in a lot of areas of forest so that some can get in and allow for habitat for others. Other organisms and team species to thrive. So, thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments on the two Forestry Service resolutions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving on. matters? Are you? Go.
Right, we have a resolution for you this morning on an ordinance from Barnegat Township. This is another in a series from Barnegat. They have been doing some zoning and redevelopment planning within a small portion of their regional growth area. You've seen a large redevelopment plan for the shoreline sand and gravel area a couple months ago. This one is rather small in impact. It would affect only probably just one property in the regional growth area. They added condominium development as a conditional use in your neighborhood commercial zone. And they established the conditions such that they've narrowed the applicability of the new use so that it would only apply in certain instances. Has to be a property on a county road, has to be at least 9 acres in size. The density is fairly high, given what we normally see in the Pinelands area. It's 15 units per acre. They envision this as a 2 or 3 story building, condominiums. PDCs are required for 25% of the units. That's a mandatory requirement built into the ordinance. And so we are recommending approval.
Much more extensive presentation.
And I'm happy to do that again.
No, we're good. I just wanted to say it would be great presentation.
This is a timeline we want.
Policy Implementation Committee unanimously recommended moving this on to commission some time, but I don't say so. Are there any comments or questions, commissioners?
We're at the P&I committee.
I'll just get questions.
It wasn't the only time, I think we talked about this. Previous resolutions, and so
Right.
we're pretty familiar with those that were involved.
We actually were a little term, we didn't get a motion.
Yeah, I'll move. Second.
No, any additional comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed or abstentions? Okay. We have one more, right? The safety tower plan?
Yeah.
Continuing that.
I'll start. And you'll have to let me know how much of your presentation you want on this one. So we have a resolution for you today that recommends approval of Ocean County's proposed amendment to the public safety tower plan. That's a plan the commission approved several years ago. This is a relatively minor amendment now that we've learned some things about these towers in particular, and had some additional meetings and discussions with particularly Ocean County about siting constraints and issues that they've run into. We do have a few slides if you want to see them. Brad is back there. If you do, P&I committee again has reviewed this extensively, and Larry's been updating me on a number of tower issues for the last, I don't know, 6 months or so. So most of you are probably somewhat familiar here. The amendment gives counties a little more flexibility in terms of siting their emergency facility towers, expands their search areas, doesn't result in any new towers. The plan that you approved originally still holds in terms of the number of new towers that can be constructed.
This is for emergency.
Right, those are only the county emergency services towers, correct? Not for the commercial providers.
Another comment, I think it was made at the P&I meeting, we talked about this, was an improvement in the hierarchy of consideration of those towers. I think that was your amendment.
Right, so the hierarchy that you're referring to requires that people seek to site towers, first outside the Pinelands area, of course, and then regional growth areas in towns where there is no height restriction, and then all the way down the list, so you get to the bottom priority, which is preservation, forest areas, sensitive areas. That hierarchy is not being changed by this amendment at all. It still holds. What the amendment does do is give the counties a little more flexibility in terms of trying to site facilities on county or publicly owned properties. The original tower plan assumed or approved the tower, say, in the rural development area. The county can look for publicly owned sites in the rural development area or regional growth or town or anything moving up the hierarchy. Can't move down the hierarchy and look for sites if they happen to own property in the forest area, for example. So that remains, but it does give them flexibility of larger search area, recognizes that their needs are different, and it's important to, they need to site on typically county-owned properties.
So they're a little bit different than the commercial providers, who, you know, have a broader range to look at, privately owned sites.
Thank you.
Okay, before we take any action, first get a motion.
I'll second.
Are there any additional questions or comments on the safety tower here, amendment to the safety tower plan?
Well, just one question that I have. Do they have under the same standards, a motor cell towers that if they, at some point in the future, decide that they're not going to use this anymore, that they have an obligation to take it down?
Yeah, those standards apply to all,
Yeah, why not
all
everyone?
local communications.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Okay. Yeah. We now move on to public comment on public development applications. We have a batch list of pending public development applications. If anybody wants to step up, Mike, we have again, comment free, 3 minutes, so everybody gets an opportunity. We have, looks like more public development applications, application for the Lakehurst, 1 acre city, 1 in Manchester Township. And we have class applications. If anybody in public wishes to make comment on these pending applications? Twice. All right, we'll close that portion.
Is this for agenda items or just public development?
Just, public development application.
Here. This is where it would be comment on the pending public development applications and resolutions where the record is not closed.
Okay.
There are 3 resolutions, this was now complicated. There's the audit resolution, there's a resolution on a rule proposal, and there's the Wharton resolution, which has been tabled. So I don't know if you were here to comment on Wharton, whether you do it now, or now you have to wait till the second comment period to do it later. You can do it, it's just I'm questioning when it would happen.
Thank you for the clarification. You know, public comment is as the executive director just described, so any open resolutions or pending development applications. We'll ask if there are, you know, comments on ordinance, we could wait for the last public comment period and get everybody in there together on that, but, you know, the time is broken out for the next comment as well.
Do you anticipate that the meeting, these 8 and 9 on the agenda are going to take a very lengthy time, or?
I sure hope not. What's the plan on it?
Because if it's not going to be too lengthy, then it might be easier just to wait.
I don't foresee, being that we tabled the board resolution, I don't foresee us having, it's not, we've already had that conversation, that was only the lengthy thing there, so, you know, I don't think you've got very much time. All right, so we'll close that portion of public comment. We have ordinances and master plans not requiring commission action. We'll move on to other resolutions. First of which is the accepting the 2015, finally accepting the 2015, I did say 2015 audit report. So, Nancy, if you want to make a quick comment on that?
And so long. This is the FY15 audit report, makes it a tiny bit better than calendar year 15 audit report, sorry. This is the FY15 audit report. There were, in front of me, it was, I would say, sort of mimicking what the chairman of the audit committee has said, Mr. Avery. It was a good audit. There were a couple of minor findings, things that were easy for us to address, which we have addressed and will be addressing. One had to do with bank reconciliations and how we do them. We have procured a new software system to help us deal with that. We have our outside auditing firm coming in monthly to look at the check registers because we're so short-staffed here. We don't have a lot of eyes on things. I think that will help address that concern. And the second finding was our need to test our disaster recovery plan, even though we actually tested it since our system failed and we had a disaster and we recovered, but that wasn't good enough, so we had to buy some new equipment in order to do a true test of the system. Those are budgeted for us, we will be doing that next year. And the auditors are now here doing the FY16 budget, trying to catch up, because we also will not have to do the FY17 budget.
Before we get too far, we had a motion.
I'd like to move the adoption.
Are there any questions or comments on the audit report or is that the director's report as well?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to come congratulate the executive director and the staff for this good audit report and to point out to my fellow commissioners and the public who may or may not be aware of it. For a few years, the state auditors have raised a question about our system of internal controls. And they would raise the question and they would press us on it, and then we would respond to it, and following year they would come back with the same series of questions. This year, finally, they've acknowledged in this report that there are no issues with our system of internal controls. And I want to congratulate the staff for finally bringing that question to an end and for proving that we never did have a problem in that area. So congratulations.
I'll echo those sentiments and thank the staff for diligently taking care of the auditors. I think that they've been presidency here still, which is never fun. But also thank the audit committee for their help as well. So, any other comments on the 2015 audit report? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And for that report online, put on our website.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Last, but certainly not least, in terms of resolutions. That resolution directing the executive director to amendments to the comprehensive management plan, which has been out there for a very long time. Let's do this one in order. We have a motion on this resolution.
Second.
Very good. Now, executive director, could you give us a synopsis here?
Susan had prepared some slides on that.
I do, I just have
Because this is a proposal that we put forth quite some time ago. And it has changed a bit since then. Some things have been added, some things have been taken out. So I'm going to go through what the changes were and I'm going to bank on the fact that you all remember this proposal from when you last saw it.
Okay, good reminder for all of us. So you can see, this is a presentation which originally I did at the July P&I committee meeting in 2016. And then again, when Nancy and I met with the governor's office to review the amendments in September of 2016. So all I've done here is just modify it to be able to see pretty clearly how it's changed since the last time you all saw it. Thank you. Hopefully the colors will show up. So the amendments are a whole combination and series of things. Some of them are substantive and they relate to items that were raised by the public and the commission during the plan review process, which is now going back, I don't know how many years, but several years ago when we completed the plan review process, there were a series of subjects that the commission recommended that staff pursue. So some of that you'll see in here. Others are efficiency measures, procedural changes, all designed to make the process work more smoothly. So application fees, this just goes in order in terms of where things fall in the CMP, not in order of importance. Application fees, the proposal does a number of things. It clarifies, makes some corrections to the existing fee regulations. You can see on here, it adds specific fees for what are called general development plans. The rules right now don't address that. Those are large, typically very large plan developments that are presented to municipalities in concept form, and they receive what's called a general development plan approval rather than formal or final subdivision approval needed to adjust our fee rules to accommodate that. Rules would reduce fees in some cases significantly for solar energy facilities, eliminate the need for applicants to submit sworn statements of construction cost estimates. They still have to submit their estimates. They don't have to be signed, sealed, and sworn. That causes a lot of delays in the process. We were proposing to increase most of the application fees by 50%. You see here that that increase has been reduced 25%. All the changes I'm showing you here are things that were recommended by the governor's office. We just said that at the outset. So anything you see removed or edited or added pretty much was recommended by the governor's office. So the fee increase is still there, but it's been reduced to 25%. The proposal contains a narrative of what that means in terms of dollars in fee revenue that we might expect to see as a result of the increase. It's not significant on an annual basis. Our best estimate is that the increase might result in 70,000 extra dollars of fee revenue per year. And again, that estimate's based on a number of assumptions. You know, the number of applications stays around the same, the types of applications stay about the same, that our staffing level remains about the same. Anyway, so 25% increase. That would allow us to cover about 43% of our application review costs, staff time, to review applications and permits. So it's still not even at 50% of the review costs, but it is an increase over what we have under the current.
Susan, I asked, that 25% increase in those fees by 25%, would that apply to the first one, the violations to reflect increase?
So let me go back to that one because you kind of see the cross out there. So that had been in the proposal. We were proposing to double fees required for applications, either public or private development applications that involved resolution of violations. So when somebody submits an application, we do a site inspection, we look at maps and realize the development has already occurred without application, and then we need to go back and try to resolve what happened, what it means, how to fix it. So that was the proposal there, was double fees for those types of applications. Obviously, you can see the strikeouts, that's something that we've had to remove from the proposal. So to drop that down
So
to,
let me just interrupt you for 1 second. With regard to that, what we will do instead of that is where we get involved with violations where we have to cure it through application and it causes us to use significantly more staff time, we will use the escrow provision that we use for those applications to tell the applicant that they're going to have to pay for the additional staff time, which we then keep track of, and they will have to pay it that way.
So it will be addressed.
right, it will be addressed perhaps not every single time, but when we are presented with a difficult, complicated situation that involves a violation, we do have the ability to require payment of, into an escrow account.
There's always multiple ways to look at the situation.
And you'll see at the bottom there, as you referred to it, the escrow provisions. You already have the ability to require escrows for certain situations. We're proposing to slightly change the wording there so it'll be clear that it covers what we call unusual expenditures, but that would relate to rental of an off-site meeting room, to hold a meeting, for example, to pay for a course stenographer, we need a transcript, things like that. So that provision will now be clarified that all of that can be covered.
Yes, I want to assume that that's more public development application as well, without the escrow.
Yes,
as
yes,
well as
that's
private.
correct. Yep. Okay, a couple, this first one here is one of our sort of efficiency procedural measures. Right now, the CMP requires that when the commission receives notice of approvals from municipalities, site plan subdivision approvals, that they include the names and mailing addresses of anyone who went to the municipality's public hearing, planning board hearings, and testified or otherwise actively participated. This causes a lot of delays in our review process because that information is often not submitted, and then we have to send a letter back and ask for it, and then they send in partial information, and we go back and forth, and it can really delay our ability to proceed to review and act on an approval. So the recommendation here is that we don't need to get that information anymore. We have other ways of finding out if people have been involved in an application. We can look at the minutes, they're posted online for these municipalities. And of course, people always have the ability to come here and request that they receive copies of any information. So we think this will be fine and make things a lot more efficient. And I should also mention, a lot of people who go and testify at planning board meetings don't give their addresses, and they don't want to. They don't want to have that information published on minutes or said to the commission. So because it's a difficult thing, and we think it's time to eliminate that requirement. We have a series of development application exemptions in the CMP. One of them relates to prescribed burning. The proposal is to clarify that so that it's clear that we're talking about linear clearing of vegetation not to exceed 6 feet in width. That hasn't been changed from the proposal at all. Governor's office did ask that we change the one on the bottom there. We're proposing to eliminate one of the exemptions that dealt with installation of utility distribution lines to effectively developed areas and development that's received all permits and approvals. They asked that we not remove that, and so it will remain as an exemption in the CMP. I don't know that it's used all that often, but it will remain available as an
Could you put that in English?
exemption.
Yes. If there's an existing gas line and there are houses that exist that need to, there's a decision made to extend service there to a smaller distribution line, those extensions are exempt from application.
These are not major transmission lines, these are smaller
Okay.
distribution lines to serve existing houses or proposed development that's been approved.
Thank you. That's what a distribution line means.
So, a couple more procedural things. We're finally updating the definition of the CFP of interested person, so it'll now be interested party. It will be clear who has the right to appeal and participate in the commission's decision-making processes. This is something we probably should have done how many years ago? I don't know. A long time ago, just in 83, 93, I don't know. Anyway. And then also clarifying when decisions that the executive director makes are considered rendered. We have these mailing requirements and when you start counting the days on which the decision is made, and try not to get into all that. These are fairly minor procedural amendments, but they should help. They'll help the staff and they should help applicants as well. Again, it's more notice and mailing. We're redefining the term mail to include email so that we can stop having to send paper copies of everything to people and we can rely more on email. We're eliminating the need to send things via certified mail in certain instances. We can still use certified mail where we think it's appropriate, but this now won't automatically require it. That's somewhat of a cumbersome process and certainly more costly than just regular mail or email. We have proposed, in terms of our public hearing, notice requirements to eliminate the need to publish notices in the newspaper. You can see that's been removed here, so we will continue to publish in the newspaper. We will continue to post notices on our website, but now that will be officially required in the regulations. Right now, it's just a practice that we have. That'll be in the rules now. And we are proposing to eliminate the requirement for applicants to have to post paper copies of notices on properties that are proposed for waivers and other types of development. That is not something that works well in the Pinelands area, as you can imagine. Might work well in the city. You see that when you're walking by on the city street, you see the notices on store windows, for example. There's really no ability to really make that work here, so that would be eliminated. Waivers. We had proposed that a certain category of waivers of strict compliance that were granted between 1981 and 1992 be assigned an expiration date. Right now they live forever, unlike every other kind of waiver the commission can grant these days, which come with a 5-year expiration provision. This one particular kind of waiver never expires. And it's surprising the number of these that are still out there that we hear from periodically when will pop up. And then it's difficult because the rules that was granted under have long been superseded, repealed, don't exist anymore. And we have to kind of figure out what to do with these things when they resurface. Again, the waiver is still valid. So the proposal here was to assign an expiration date, notify all people to the extent we can. Again, some of these are very, very, all of them are old, some are very old. They've changed hands, it's not the same owner anymore. But to notify people, let's say these provisions have been removed. So that'll be something the commission will need to consider perhaps at a later time. But for now, these old waivers would not be effective at all.
So do we know how many of these old waivers exist?
About 200. But again, that's a rough, I have a spreadsheet that has all of them on there. In a number of instances, when I just sort of spot checked, a few. The house has already been built. It was approved by the waiver. We simply didn't receive permits, so we weren't aware that it had been built, but in fact it has been. I saw a number of those. In some cases, the property has been purchased by DEP for conservation purposes. So there's a variety of situations. And it would take, some effort to pull through that list and pull out the ones that really do still have a possibility for development. But there's, a good number of them. They're still out there. And then the last thing with relative to waivers, right now, when the commission considers a compelling public need waiver, typically from a municipality or county, there's a requirement to hold a public hearing. The rules right now require that the applicant, in those instances, do public notice for the public hearing. We're proposing to change that, so it's the commission that does notice, it's the commission's public hearing. We think it'd be better if the staff are the ones who prepare the notices, ensure their publication in the newspaper and on our own website. So that's just a change. We don't do many of these, so that'll be changed the next time. Landfills, this came originally from plan review, this issue of working with municipalities on their closed landfills. We thought it would be a good idea to clarify in the CMP the circumstances under which an impermeable cap is not required on one of these closed landfills. There is language in the CMP already talking about that. But we wanted to make crystal clear that there is this situation that could exist with one of these landfills, that perhaps there is a plume. We know it's there leaving the landfill, but the data we have and the monitoring that's been done shows that that plume doesn't pose any significant ecological risk to wetlands. That's a situation under which an impermeable cap would not be required. There may be other closure mechanisms that have to occur, but the cap itself wouldn't be necessary. We had written in there also a reference to DEP and their determination that this plume doesn't cause any significant public health risk. My understanding is they asked that be removed, and so we have. So what we'll be looking at from the commission's perspective and our rules is the ecological risk to wetlands. That's the commission's role in looking at these landfills. They're still going to have to go to DEP for review and approval, but that'll be done under their authority. Now, and then these are significant, I think, as well. We've been waiting a long time to get some of this done. This relates to our pilot program for alternate design treatment systems. We have one technology in that program, the FAST technology, which has proven that it works, meets our standards. They need 1.4 acre lots to make that work, not the original 1 acre that we had originally hoped, but they work well on 1.4 acre lots. And so we would like to graduate that system, if you will, out of the pilot program and authorize it for use on a permanent basis without the need for further monitoring. We have enough data, which Ed has presented to you over the past couple of years and his annual reports on the program to prove that it does work. And so that'll be a great thing for them and for applicants who want to use that technology. CMP has some septic management requirements. They've been in there for years. We haven't been able to do much with them. DEP has their own septic management requirements. This is one of those situations where you have two agencies with similar standards and kind of get each other's way. Our proposal here is that the rules that the commission has should be eliminated, and we should refer to and rely on DEP septic management requirements. We will continue to work with our applicants and our municipalities. These relate to, again, to the pilot program, alternate design technologies, to make sure that appropriate maintenance is being done and all the contracts and monitoring agreements are complete. And then this last one, I feel like I should have highlighted this. It's not an addition, but it's very important. Right now, if you are not in a regional growth area, town, or village, and you're a non-residential use, you cannot use an alternate design wastewater treatment system for your development, either for new use or expansion of an existing commercial use. We would like to, the proposal is to change that so that if you're an existing use in, say, rural development area, the forest area, an infill area, an conservation area, or an agricultural production area, you will have the ability to change your septic system from what's probably a very old conventional septic system and use one of these alternate design systems to treat the wastewater come up to meeting the CNP standards, the water quality standards, and hopefully be able to expand their existing use. These are pre-existing uses, they were there before the Pinelands Commission. And we are aware of a number of instances where expansion is proposed and they get stuck because the rules right now don't allow them to use an advanced system that would actually benefit the environment and treat the wastewater where right now it's not being treated. So this is a big one, and I don't know that it will affect a lot of developers or a lot of properties, but it certainly will be helpful in a number of cases that we're aware of.
Susan, do we have a definition as to what we consider an infill area in those areas?
Yeah, infill areas are defined in the CMP. They are discrete areas within preservation area districts. Typically, they're existing little residential settlements within the preservation area. They're not big enough to be villages. They're pretty small. I think we only have 3 municipalities. They've actually defined boundaries, created zones to match the infill area. And then within those infill areas, the rules provide that we can develop new homes, in some cases, commercial uses on existing lots only. So there's no subdivision allowed. But if you have an existing 1 acre lot in between 2 houses, this will allow you to. Digital provision allows, right.
Gotcha.
And then signs. This is another one we've been waiting to do for a while. This was raised during the plan review process. This came up because municipalities want to adopt ordinances regulating digital signs, LED technology, and the CMP just doesn't address that very well. Our sign rules haven't been amended in, I don't know, 25 years, so you can imagine they don't keep up with new technology. So this is something that's been discussed in the United Committee for, I don't know, many meetings. The proposal would essentially delegate regulation of on-site signs to municipalities. So the CMP would no longer contain pages and pages of standards about how big your business sign can be and how big the lettering can be and how many signs you can have on your commercially developed property. Municipalities would have that authority and responsibility to regulate on-site signs. Not talking about billboards, but these are signs on your property. The CMP would give municipalities the ability to determine for those on-site signs if they want to permit digital technology, LED technology. If they want to, that's fine. If they don't want to, that'll be their business. But they'll have the ability to do that. That may sound like a minor thing to you all, but I can tell you for municipalities, this is very important. I get emails about this quite frequently from the municipal planners, mayors, people who are trying to allow their businesses to keep up with modern technology and use these types of signs. And right now, we just keep telling them they can't because the rules really don't allow that outside of state growth areas in town. So this is a big one. Municipalities are following this pretty closely. They're very interested. So that's on-site signs. Off-site signs, billboards, again, they're really only allowed in regional growth areas and Pinelands towns. The rules would be clarified to allow for municipalities, again, if they want to permit those billboards to use digital technology, LED lighting, they can. If you've got an old billboard, say in a forest area, those are supposed to be removed eons ago, and so they would not be allowed to convert and use the new technology. They're non-conforming uses, they're supposed to come down, not be improved and remain. And that's it. So that's what the proposal will do. Next steps, if the commission were to authorize the proposal today. We'll post it on the website, of course. We'll file it with the Office of Administrative Law for publication. The earliest that could be published is September 5th. We'll provide notice to all of the parties the CMP requires. The municipal council will meet with the municipal council to make sure they're fully aware of what's in the proposal. All municipalities, counties, other interested parties will get notice. We'll hold a public hearing. The resolution or the document you have before you proposes, I guess, the evening of October 4th. We'll have a 60-day public comment period that will extend through November 4th. And then we will prepare an adoption notice for the commission's consideration. We'll summarize all comments. We'll make recommendations for any changes that might need to occur. And we'll get that back before you as soon as possible.
All right. Any additional questions?
for Susan or anybody else? Okay. Congratulations. All right, hearing no additional comments, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. All right, now we're up to general public comment. Comment on anything that any Pinelands, we ask for comments to around 3 minutes, so everybody gets an opportunity. And do we have a list of folks who signed up for comment? All right, first up, Randy Pasquale.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Randy DePasquale. I'm from Marlton. My comment is in regard to the Wharton roadmap. I appreciate that the commission and commission staff have to go through the process to discuss with NJDEP the language of the resolution and all. But just as a reminder, the map will serve more than just DEP. I think it's also going to be a really valuable educational tool to users of the forest. I think it will cut down on a lot of accidental damage from people who are visiting the first time, who, especially with the internet, message boards, Facebook and all that. People are learning about new places and just going right out and exploring them, not completely educated. If there's a map available, you're already going to cut down a certain percentage of the people who are just accidentally wandering in new places. You also educate a good number of people who've lived here for their entire lives, but if they don't know they're not supposed to be there, if there's nothing that says they can't be there, what's going to stop them? That's basically it. There's more than just the NJDEP that will need this map. So, thank you.
Thank you. All the input.
Holly Edwards, Oakland, New Jersey. I was at the policy committee meeting, whatever that was, and I spoke. And I spoke about this issue with the roads being kicked down the road, and I was told no, we're just trying to be thorough. And when we came out of that meeting, Mrs. Whitberg was to speak with DEP, and then we would have all the information and come to this meeting and act on it. And now again, down the road. Just seems like you don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it. And it's another reason to kick it down the road another month and another month of more and more damage. There's no disagreement on it that damage is being done. Damage is being done. And every month that goes by, it's worse damage and less that it can be changed. And now we're here with another little thing. Remember what somebody said something about this land is DEP's. The land is not DEP's. The land is ours. The land is the citizens. They don't own the land. It is not their land. Maybe just using the wrong words. It is not their land. It's our land, and we want it taken care of. And I'm so disappointed. This doesn't seem like you want to step up and take care of the land and solve a problem that everybody acknowledges is. For some reason, you just don't want to step up and do it. DEP doesn't want to do it. Then I hear, oh, it's not within our purview, and it's not this. In the meantime, the damage goes on and on and on. And just rather frustrating coming here and just not seeing it being protected. It's not, DEP says we don't need it, you say it's not our purview, and you keep going back and forth and back and forth, and every week we go down there and it's worse and worse and worse. None of you want to protect it. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And here we again, we're going to kick it down the road, and next month we're going to have, next month, that's what we do every month, next month. And the damage goes on.
All right, Don, Stockton, Rossi.
Don Stockton, Rossini, Pemberton, New Jersey. I'd like to start out with a quote from the Pinelands Protection Act, this commission's enabling statute. It's cited as NJSA 13:18A-24B. No person shall operate any motor vehicle upon any public land within the Pinelands area other than upon public highways, except in such areas designated by the commission for such purposes. That is your enabling statute. Again, NJSA 13:18A-24B. Off-road vehicles are not allowed to run rampant through the Pinelands. The Pinelands Protection Act limits vehicles on public highways, or limits vehicles to public highways. This resolution deals with an issue that only brings devastation to habitat on our state lands. Illegal, non-permitted, unorganized off-roading is a purely recreational activity. No one is running over wetlands because it makes them money. There is little economic benefit to the area from illegal ORV use, and the cost to habitat substantially outweighs any benefit that could be brought. During the government shutdown, I was coming out of the Warden State Forest right before the official shutdown. And there was a Jeep on First Beach, which is about a quarter mile from the park ranger station. Sand was spraying everywhere. The Jeep was wet. Clearly, this guy had been going through wetlands right next to the ranger station. Signs would dramatically help reduce anything like that. Blocking illegal paths used by off-roaders will protect the sensitive areas in Wharton and can be used throughout the entire Pinelands as an example. Finally, this resolution is not about today or this season. The resolution is about the future of Warden State Forest and the future of the Pinelands as a whole. This is about next season. This is about the next 10 to 20 to 30 years. It goes well beyond the makeup of this commission. It goes well beyond this current state administration. I commend this commission for the work it's done on this map. It looks like it would be a very beneficial thing. But I ask that you move on this resolution as quickly as possible. It's the right thing to do, and you have more than the power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Henson? Samantha here? All right, move on to Courtney Compton. All right, and then Bill Zeiss. They were looking all together too. John Vance.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Fans. I'm from Winslow Township. There was some of you may be familiar with this area. There's a road that runs from Route 206, approximately 2 miles north of Hamilton, out to Pleasant Mills Road, Route 542. It's called Westmill Fire Break. And recently there was a gate erected out on Route 206. And that's the only access to that area of the Pinelands. There's thousands of acres back there. I've been going back there for close to 30 years. And now there's no access to that area because the other access point over by the Pleasant Mills Church is, there's a bridge there, and that bridge is closed. The gate was erected by the owner of Paradise Lakes, and there was a resolution between him and the town of Hamilton. And I looked at I have a copy of that resolution right here. There's a number of glaring errors in that resolution. I'm just not sure if people here are aware of that or what can be done to remove that gate. The gate was put up approximately 2 weeks ago. And it denies access, like people like me, to that area. And also, if the Forest Fire Service has to get back there to suppress a fire of some sort, they won't be able to get back there. There's no way to get back there. That's the only way to get back into that area or state forest. So I just wanted to thank you.
Jeff Tittle?
Jeff Tittle, Director, New Jersey Sierra Club. And I want to start off and say that you're starting to go in the right direction with the off-road vehicles. They're trying to limit their damage, and using topo maps and protection of natural resources is an important way to go forward because of what they're doing and the destruction that the ORVs, when they're abused, the environment can happen in the areas where there shouldn't be. However, you should also be taking the same kind of steps when it comes to pipelines and the permanent damage that they're doing to the pinelands potentially and to the environment, whether it's the destruction of critical natural resources by cutting the pinelands through, cutting these pipelines through the forest preservation area, through wetlands and through critical areas. And they, by the way, will become tasks for ATVs and RVs as well. So, if you're concerned about that issue, you should think about pipelines in the same way. I'm also here to talk about something I think is really critical. We're turning the Pinelands processes into a sham. We're having a new meeting on the Southern Reliability Link because we sued you and because this board and this commission overstepped its bounds in approving a pipeline without looking at the impacts that it has to the public and to the Pinelands. We're having these hearings, I can't use the word hearing because they're a meeting, and that is a serious problem. We did send you a letter about a week ago on it. We believe the timing of the hearing in the middle of the summer, or the meeting in the middle of the summer at 9:30 in the morning in Toms River, away from the Pinelands itself and away from where the people that have been most interested in this area live, an hour away from most of the people who are interested in this issue, is shameful. More importantly, I'm an objector. I'm now an interested party, I guess. Is that the right word? I get 3 minutes. I can't bring in experts. I can't refute your experts. There are conditions of, there are certain facts where there are direct opposite facts about it. We believe a lot of your things are alternate facts. We'd like to bring in our witnesses to be able to show why these things are wrong. We'd also like to be able to cross-examine witnesses, and we can't. There's no way to deal with that dispute if there's two parties disagreeing on key elements of what's happening. We believe it violates the Administrative Procedures Act, and you're flying blind, you're doing this without any kind of rulemaking or process that's in place. And we think it's shameful because it undoes the public confidence in this board. And it undoes your credibility because hundreds of people may show up, be limited. Evidence comes in after the public hearing. Evidence during the South Jersey Gas came in after the close of public comment where we couldn't even be able to respond to it. This is wrong. Because we're a society that's based on the means to an end. But there has to be processes and procedures in place where the public has a right to participate and the public has a right to be able to get on the record issues and facts that they believe are pertinent for you to make your decision as a quasi-judicial body. And that's why we find this whole process so wrong. It seems it's being used to limit public participation. As I said, having it then, not having anything in the evening, not having multiple meetings, not giving people more than 3 minutes. This is a critical issue that's going to affect the Pinelands for generations to come. Many of your members may be gone with the new administration, but the damage you do could live on for generations, especially when it comes to putting pipelines through areas in the forest preservation area where there's natural recurrent forest fires, talking about lead burn lines, talking about putting a pipeline in where you're not looking at the impacts to climate change, which is your duty, the secondary impacts of potential power plants and other things. You did it once on South Jersey Gas, so we're back in court over, and now you're doing it again. Please Stand up for the Pinelands, stand up and do your jobs. This is the Pinelands Preservation Act. This is not the Pinelands Pipeline Act. Commissioners, do your job, listen to the people. Otherwise, you're gonna be the same symbol as the governor sitting on the beach when the state parks are closed. Please, do your job and let the public have their chance and have their time at the table. Allow for a real hearing process and put rules in place to allow it. Thank you very much.
Kathy? Samantha?
Very good, thank
Okay,
you.
sorry.
So I am Kathy Daneka. I'm a resident of Chatsworth, New Jersey. I'm here basically just as a private citizen. And in terms of the comments that the people who spoke before me, I can't be any more eloquent than that. In terms of, we cannot allow this to be just pushed down the road again. Please, the damage that's being done, it cannot be undone. We need to get a decision on this quickly. The last gentleman referred to the pipeline issue, and I'm sure anybody who uses Wharton Forest is aware of the very large fire break road that has been cut, which most people who cross that road immediately say, hey, great, a new avenue for off-roaders. You close one thing, they're going to start using that road and then start building it to other places. We need to draw the lines. But the other thing is the mission of the Pinelands Commission, the reason that we're all here. The one thing we are protecting, it's not just what we can see, it's what we're standing on, it's the aquifer. Please remember, ultimately what we are trying to protect is the water. And that is, as I see it, the mission of the Pinelands Commission, and it's the responsibility of all of us here. So please remember, it's about the water. Once we destroy it, we can't undo it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Green? Dave here?
I have no comment. Did somebody run through me?
No, that's fine. John Hopkins? John here? Great. Regina Shanley?
Good morning, Georgina Shanley of Ocean City. History is not the past, it's now, it's what we're doing today and what we take with us, according to James Baldwin, and I believe that. And what we're seeing is just really, piece by piece, the Pinelands is being destroyed. You know, we're seeing this map, it's such a no-da issue. It should be approved, it should have been approved. I've seen many things that were far less obvious being fast-tracked through the Pinelands Commission and passed. But this is one that we can all, is tangible, we can see it, and it's really a disgrace. And even for Mr. Barr to say, let's hold it off until September. This is the prime time where the Pinelands are being destroyed. We see more development, the water is being extracted more. We see also, there was a bill introduced by Jeff Van Drew to weaken the conflict of interest rule for Pineland commissioners so they could vote on issues that are real conflicts of interest. We're seeing the eroding of the whole, not just the process, but of the whole Pinelands right in front of our eyes. I absolutely, and our group is absolutely opposed to this New Jersey natural gas 30-mile, 30-inch, over 700 PSIs, powerful pipeline through the Pinelands. It was conceived in darkness. It's going through in shadows. We're having a meeting and not a hearing on July 26th at 9:30 in the morning for only union people or people who are employed by the gas companies or lawyers are able to get the time off to do it. It's very difficult for ordinary people to go there. And regardless of who goes there, nobody is listened to. We've seen it over and over again. It's a little dog and pony show that's just put up for public consumption, but nobody listens. You're supposed to be protecting, enhancing, and preserving the Pinelands. What you're doing is destroying, destroying the Pinelands. And it's not something to be proud of. This pipeline violates the CMP rules. There's no doubt about it. And there's no necessity for the joint base. There's no military function for this pipeline. That whole concoction started, and it's all documented, with the executive director letting the gas company know that this was a way to make it in keeping with the comprehensive management plan. It is not going to be used in the military base. The military base is also highly contaminated. There's been no comprehensive environmental impact study done. It's all based on fake facts, not science, and not reason, and not protection. How can anybody tap off this enormously powerful pipeline to get local use in the base? Tell me. It's impossible. So why are you buying this? We're depending on you to protect it. We're depending on you to stand up for the Pinelands. And we're I've been coming here for 6 years, and it's the same old stuff. There's a certain group of people on the commission who are excellent and really adhere to their pledge to protect the Pinelands. But there are political appointees who are just doing what their bosses are telling them. And who's going to suffer? Not just the environment, the people, it's just a total loss of confidence. This pipeline is endangering the environment, it's endangering communities, and it is creating a greater increase of the climate crisis that we're seeing with the release of methane. 7 townships have come out against it in resolutions. A city has come out against it. A county has come out against it in resolutions. Does it matter to you? Does it make any difference? It's like what's happening in Washington, D.C. It's a total mess. I would hope that you encourage hearings, proper hearings on this ultimate threat to the Pinelands. Thank you.
Jack O'Connor? Jack here?
All right, he's left.
All right. Doug O'Malley? Doug still here?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Doug O'Malley. I'm the Director of Environment New Jersey. We represent more than 20,000 citizen members across the state. And we're here this morning because, not only to echo the comments that we've heard from the public in support of protecting Wharton, but to discuss the quote-unquote special meeting that is coming up in the New Jersey natural gas pipeline. We've already heard some comments here this morning regarding the pipeline. Now, I wanted to repeat the basic message that I think we've heard in the past from the public, which is that the current process as outlined smacks of a rubber stamp and it undermines the credibility of this commission. It is clear, obviously, that there are divergent opinions on the pipeline, and we have heard from a majority of the public that this pipeline does not make sense. Not only from the public itself, but from independent experts that are saying there's not a need, and that the commission is hiding behind the fig leaf of the joint base to rubber stamp this project. We firmly believe there's not a need for this pipeline, but we are equally concerned that the commission is using a process that is fundamentally flawed and it's designed to keep the public out. And the very fact that it required litigation from the New Jersey Sierra Club to have a public hearing, is public meeting. Yes, the special meeting, really is an outrage because both New Jersey DP and the Board of Public Utilities held hearings that had evening hours and that were close to the pipeline route and ensured that the public would be able to comment. To have a hearing in the middle of the week, 9:30 in the morning is designed to shut the public out. And clearly that's the message that's being sent by this commission. And this is not obviously in isolation. members of the commission clearly saw the tremendous interest from the public regarding the South Jersey gas pipeline. And the fact that it seems like the commission's repeated those same errors, really should send off alarm bells. We were happy to join the joint letter that New Jersey Sierra Club submitted earlier, outlining the need to have a true process, a process that included an evidentiary hearing, allowed for cross-examination, did not have artificial time limits, ensured that there'd actually be time to review this. A 90-day extension of the public comment process is entirely reasonable, and the fact that there should be multiple hearings. We have not heard a response from the commission, and that silence is deafening, because for members of the public, what they see is they see a commission that has already made up its mind, that is holding this because they need to hold it. And you need to do everything you can to dispel that notion. And the fact the fact that the points in the letter are not being responded to, I think it not only reflects poorly on the commission, but it reflects poorly on the legislators and decision makers in South Jersey. We need to have a voice, and we need to have an independent analysis. And right now, this special meeting isn't going to give that to the public. Thank you.
Ed? I'm here.
Tom Edmond, I live in Tabernacle Township. I'm here representing the ECEA in Control, New Jersey. I just have 2 points about the resolution, and as noble a concept as it is to identify the roads and using topo maps is fine. I haven't seen your amendment language, but there are 2 points. One is the whereases were followed by in consultation with, and one of those was the Enduro community. And as your liaison to the Enduro community, that meant I heard from a friend last week. So the consultation parts of the resolution are very weak. And I know anecdotally from speaking with about 5 or 6 of the municipalities that there's been no real consultation with municipalities as well. And whether you're for or against the resolution, it's really important that the towns are brought into this process, because the MAP process, the Motorized Access Plan process, was a disaster for the very reason that there wasn't consultation, and the towns were crucial in that consultation. So although I'm not here representing the towns, I would urge you to take that step while you're reaching out to the DEP, whether it's required or not. You need to make the towns aware of what you're doing. My second point is that there's some of the language, and it's the very language your amendment addresses, Commissioner Logar. I represent the legal use of off-road vehicles with the ECEA, and the language currently doesn't contemplate special use permanent events in any way, shape, or form. And we're an essential part of the Pinelands. There are many people here who probably don't agree with that point, but we're good citizens. We do our due diligence. We work with the commission on everything we can. We work with volunteering. We work with the DEP. We're actually working with the DEP very hard right now. And I assume that that is just an oversight in the language, and that there will be a contemplation of special use permit events eventually, because to try and do this by fiat or eliminate us by this kind of language thing would be detrimental to your own needs, because you'll have thousands of people here for your next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. William Drystock? Is William here? All right. Next, David Benetti?
Thank you. David Benedetti, the Director of Community Development for Pemberton Township. And I'm here because of an issue that we've come up with in regard to West End Park, which is off Sprigtown Road. The township owns approximately 45 acres known as West End Park. West End Park serves as the primary recreation for the residents of the Lake Valley, Prato, and Magnolia parts of the township. The goals of the township were to provide additional recreational facilities to all the residents over in that area, children and adults. And the township submitted an application to the commission to develop this park, which is fallow agricultural land that is in the regional growth area. The plan developed does not propose any structures or parking in the wetlands area, which is the crux of the problem, is that there are wetlands on the parcel. And it's limiting the development of the property for recreational uses, primarily soccer and some other field activities. This issue arose after we submitted the plan and worked with the commission staff. The township was interested in modifying the Pinelands management areas in this area in an attempt to get it out of the regional growth area and put it in an agricultural district. So that we are aware of the issue that had come up with Hamilton in a similar situation. And we're just looking for some guidance from the commission on how we can resolve this issue and move forward.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Emil DeVito, New Jersey Conservation Foundation. I don't think I might not be able to be here on August 14th when you get to consider the resolution about Wharton State Forest. And so I just want to give you a little extra background. I know there are many commissioners that, support the idea of using the topo maps, and perhaps there are some commissioners that are still unsure if they could support that. So I would hope that, the commission could have a unanimous decision supporting the use of the topo maps. So for those of you who are unsure if it's a good idea, I'll just give you a little thing that's happening now in Brendan Burns State Forest. The DEP has created a fairly alarming map declaring many thousands of acres of Brendan Burns State Forest as potential non-sensitive areas, only because they don't have any data. They don't have the wherewithal to collect any data, or the resources, really, not so much wherewithal. So as a result, the conservation community and volunteers are collecting data so that we can show the DEP that these areas that they claim are non-sensitive, where they might allow all sorts of races to be run with motor vehicles, are actually sensitive. We've found at least 6 pine snake nests in these supposed non-sensitive areas in the last 2 weeks. We're going to be radio tracking pine snakes. The volunteer hours put into this are staggering, totally volunteer, not even people who work for conservation groups like me, right? And I'm doing this on extra time. People are donating money to buy the radio transmitters, people like Paula, who speaks regularly at your meetings, and many other people. They cost $175 a piece, the radio transmitter. People are donating the surgery to put the radio transmitters in the snakes. We're going to amass nest sites, den sites, critical shed sites. We're going to be mapping all the critical areas in Brendan Burns State Forest because nobody else seems to be able to do it. So we're going to do it. Even though the people who are applying for the recreational permits should be the ones to do it because they're like developers. Okay? And they're not providing any data. So we're doing it. You'll hear more about that as time goes on. One of the nest sites is about 50 feet from a road that's on the topo map. It's always been a road. It'll still be a road. People will be able to ride their vehicles on that road. But it's in an open pine forest area with sand. And so people go down the road and they say, oh, look, there's space in between the trees. Let me go destroy it because there's sand that I can throw in the air. And so that's what they're doing. So when we found that female with the eggs, Bob Zappalordi, with his permits, from the Endangered Species Program, took the female into his lab. She laid the eggs in his lab. We're going to hatch the eggs in the lab so that the babies don't get run over in the next 3 months before they hatch and have the eggs get crushed. We've got a radio transmitter in the female. I have her outside. And as soon as the public comment period is over, I'll give folks, anybody who wants to see it, a radio tracking demonstration in case you've never seen a magnificent 5-foot-long female pine snake that's just laid her eggs. So please, let's have a nice unanimous vote so that we can start taking care of our natural resources on August 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Margot Pellegrino. Margaret, before you, sorry, just clarify, the next meeting is August 11th. Right,
Oh.
August 11th.
Oh, I thought I heard August 14th earlier. I'm sorry.
Hi, Margot Pellegrino, Medford Lakes, New Jersey. Just going back, I have a question actually for you guys. Just going back to what was mentioned about allowing folks in sensitive areas to get the new prototypes, or you're moving the prototypes of the septic out of the prototype phase and putting them into use for the general public in these sensitive areas. I remember a while back, I can't remember exactly which meeting it was a while back, that one of the issues with the prototypes was they were getting clogged by the plastic fibers from clothes, in the washing process, and that was actually jamming up the systems. I was wondering if that has been resolved, if that was looked into, or if there is a new system that wasn't that system, because I unfortunately have also missed a bunch of meetings, and I was just wondering if you could provide maybe the name of the manufacturer and the name of the septic system, the new septic system, just because I would like to look into that. And also, regarding the map, we definitely, that the destruction is really evident. It's glaring, and it would be wonderful if we could move forward with that in a more timely manner. The other day I was riding my bike with my kids and my husband, and just the wildlife that's on the roads alone is incredible. And we saw a rough green snake, and you don't see them too often. They're really cute little snakes as far as snakes go. And this is something that would definitely be run over if someone was in an ORV. They wouldn't see it because we're on bikes. We go a little slower, bicycles, pedaling. Anyway, so I'm glad that you guys are still thinking about it and moving it forward, but the clock is ticking. And all of this, the use and abuse in this fragile area, of course, is going to impact our water and that Kirkwood Cohansey aquifer. I live in Medford Lakes. I'm lucky enough to live on the lake. You can swim anytime you want. Come over to my house. I'll give you my address. You can come swim in the lake, and you can feel the number of cold spots when you dive down under the lake. That's where the Kirkwood Cohansey is pumping and dumping the water back into our lake. So any impact that we see, the use and abuse of the Pinelands, is going to also impact our lake community. Anyone who lives in Medford Lakes knows how much we value our lakes. When we lost our lakes in 2004, it was a huge deal. I don't want to be living on a cesspool of a lake that's contaminated because this aquifer is constantly impacted. If you take a trip from Medford Lakes down to the Delaware, you'll see the impacts of development. You'll smell them on the Rancocas. You can smell a difference on the Mullica, where you don't have all those impacts. But if you keep using this protected area, you're going to start smelling that on the Mullica. And as far as the hearing goes, the special meeting, I'm sorry, I keep calling it a hearing, because it should be a hearing. The public should be able to come out on their own time and their own dime. Unlike the guys that show up during the day, it's not on their own dime. The company is paying them. Why else would these guys want to come out and speak? Yeah, this is not about the jobs. This is about our water. This is about our aquifer. And back in 1979, people with a lot of brains and a lot of foresight understood why we needed to protect this. Please do your job, please. And I'm not even going to get into the debacle of the politics and everything behind it, and the 3 Senate Judiciary Committee hearings for a certain appointment, and then the 2 ridiculous votes, the first one tabled by Senator Sweeney. I mean, who's ever seen, this is like crazy. This is almost like a novel. There's just the political power plays on this commission. And the last thing we should be doing is making it easier for, lowering the bar for conflicts of interest. But anyway, I'm done now, and thank you so much.
That does it for the list. Is there anybody else for general public comment? Yes, sir. If you would.
Hi, everyone. Jason Howell, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. I'm speaking with you today because what we have is a slow-moving disaster in Northern State Forest, and it's been going on a long time. The DEP, this has happened under their watch, and they have proven quite helpless in solving it to this day. And that's why we're here today. The park police are understaffed and under-equipped, and they're not being given the tools that they need to succeed. And that's why we need the Pinelands Commission to step up to the plate. It is your job to solve big problems in land use and management of Pinelands. And that's why we need you. We need you to represent us, the people that are spending their time to come here to share this problem with you. We need you to help us. And we can't do it on our own. I'm going to just repeat Paula's comment. It's not the DEP's land. It's our land, the public land. We've entrusted them with the management, but they're not doing a good job. And we need you to help. Now, I've watched this and listened to this debate very carefully and over the resolution. And I think every point that has been brought up has been met satisfactorily. It's important that we start with Wharton, especially because it's the epicenter of this crisis in the Pinelands. Bass River State Forest doesn't have the degree of problem that Wharton does. And a lot of that's because of the internet and the ease of access from major metropolitan areas. And just to highlight, that this problem is ongoing, there were 6 illegal off-road vehicles involved in a crash yesterday on Burntville Road. 1 had to be airlifted out of the forest. And, this is just not what our state public land is meant for. It's meant for peaceful, passive recreation, non-impactful recreation. And a lot of that is represented in the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan and everything in the founding documents of the Pinelands. And we need your help. Another thing, last week I was walking down Batstill River Road. It's an area where the riverbanks are being torn up and degraded year after year by off-road vehicles. And there was a burnt spot on the road right near the river. And I couldn't figure it out because it didn't look like a forest fire. It was just one centralized burnt spot. And it was an off-road vehicle that had either exploded or caught on fire, and there were parts strewn about. The main body of the wreckage had been hauled out, but no one I could talk to had any idea that it even happened. And so this is one of the parts from the vehicle. It's a charred nameplate. So now we have a toxic waste site, essentially, right near the Batstill River from one of these vehicles exploding and catching on fire. I was going to pass this around if anyone feels like seeing it. So this slow-moving disaster, we're here to solve it, and we need you to help us do that. And this resolution is a good thing. I think everyone can agree that it is. Every user group has supported it thus far with some minor changes. So if you care about public land and public access, if you care about law enforcement and the firefighters who have to deal with this problem on a daily basis, and if you really care about making a positive difference in our world and in the Pine Barrens, then you will support this resolution. Thank you.
Anybody else on the list for general public comment? Actually, I saw the hand go at the back first. Yes.
Hello, my name is Harriet Waller. I live in Haddon Township. I'd like to urge this commission as a whole to adopt a reverence for all life so that you can do your duty fully and thoroughly protect the pinelands, which I see as the most precious natural resource in New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Corey Bishop. I'm from Egg Harbor City, New Jersey. This is only the second time I've been able to make it to a Pinelands Commission meeting. And as soon as I walked in the door, you were working on tabling the issue I was here for. And as others have mentioned, it's frustrating to have this kicked down the road constantly. Normally I have work. I know there's other people who take off work to come and then have it pushed off the table and they have to take off work again. And there's people who have to get rides, carpool, who have to get childcare. And to just continually keep this down the road while damage is being done is a little incomprehensible to me. Especially when it seems like we could adopt a plan, and if we found errors, we could fix those, expand it, minimize it, take back comments once we see how it is actually affecting the pinelands and our water. I went to yesterday's master water supply planning meeting from the DEP at Stockton. It was their fourth meeting of the kind in different locations at different times of day so that everyone could hear the information and give comment on it. And it just seems like we could use more hearings at different times of day at different locations. I know you are near the Pinelands and this is where you're located, but it's a 45-minute drive for me, and I'm sure there are people who came here from further. And I know that plenty of people who walked out minutes after you tabled the issue, who were here for that, they came all this way, only to have it pushed back as soon as they were in the door. And now their thoughts aren't even getting heard. Who knows if they can come to the next meeting? So I just think we should definitely be a little more considerate of the people who are coming here to make comments about their public lands that they care about, because they are being affected, and it is your job as commissioners to protect those lands. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Katie Smith. I'm with the Pinelands Preservation Alliance, and I wanted to thank people who spoke before, particularly immediately before, talk about the issue of accessibility, specifically in relation to the upcoming special meeting related to the New Jersey Natural Gas Pipeline Review. And as has been mentioned, the location is far from where many of the people who are impacted, particularly in Gordontown and Chesterfield, live. It's going to be a long drive for them. And so many people in those areas along the route have work from 9 to 5 and won't be able to make those hours. So I wanted to bring to the Commission's attention a letter that we and 28 other organizations, including some of the people represented here, submitted to the Commission earlier this week. It asks for the Commission to extend the public meeting 3 hours beyond 5 p.m. so that people who can't make it during the day and have to come afterward are able to voice their opinions to the Commission and be heard that way. And I think this is really critical for people who live along the route, and it's a good way to increase the accessibility of the meeting for those people. So I ask you to take that into consideration. And a copy of that letter is in the official record for the file, and you shall be able to access that from the Commission. So thank you.
Anybody else for general public comment?
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is John Hybris, and I was on the original Governor's Pinelands Review Committee. I was the chairman of the Committee for Compensation and Management, and we laid out the guidelines for how this commission should be made up. I'm happy to see you people here trying to do that job. Unfortunately, this is New Jersey, and politics oftentimes plays a major role in any other thing. I think you should realize, however, that you're here to preserve the pine barrens, and it's not happening. The destruction that takes place in the pines on a regular basis is awesome. I hike through this area, I pick up cans, I pick up trash, I see the motorcycles, I see the ATVs, I see the graffiti and historic sites, and it needs to stop. Unfortunately, the answer always seems to be money. Parks and forests never seems to have enough. They don't have enough money to preserve the pines. They have limited staff, they have limited dollars, they cannot control what takes place in the pine barrens. The destruction that's taking place needs to stop, or you won't have a pine barrens. You will not have the cleanest water in the United States and probably the whole world. It will become polluted, it will become destroyed, and you will lose it. I think you need to do your jobs of protecting the pine barrens. These arguments that are going on here, and it's really political arguments. What can you expect here in New Jersey? This is where we live, we understand. A pine barren should be above that, and you people should be above that. You're here to protect and preserve. You're not here to destroy. Please do your best job. Thank you.
Anyone else for general public comment? All right, close general public comment. We believe we have a matter for executive session, and I believe we do plan on take action after the closed session. We're going to have a motion. Resolution from retired to closed session. Yep, go ahead. Sorry, but the interruption. I apologize.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act provides for the public bodies such as the Pinelands Commission may meet in closed session to discuss any matter involving the acquisition of real property with public funds. Whereas the Commission desires to retire to closed session to discuss acquisition matters. Now therefore be it resolved, the Commission shall at this time meet in closed session to discuss the acquisition of real property with public funds, the substance of which will only be disclosed when it will not impede the state's efforts to acquire the parcel in question.
We have a motion to retire to closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.